My name is Alyssa Whitlock, and this is my learning autobiography. I don't need to take a million personality quizzes to know that I'm what is considered an introvert. As a child, I was always considered the quiet one by peers and teachers alike. I was always fine with this, as I preferred to be taking everything around me in to process and reflect. Being reflective has served me well as I move from learner to educator, and in writing this autobiography, I have discovered I will never stop learning as I am always wanting to gain more wisdom or grow more in any aspect of my life, professional or personal. When I think of my journey as a learner, from early education to high school to college, there are two main constants: my love of writing and appreciating literature because of the craft of the author, and some incredible educators that inspired that love even more. I grew up in Westbrook, Maine, a small city next to Portland. I attended elementary, middle, and high school there. I ran cross country and track, and despite my quiet tendencies, was even captain in my upperclassmen years. I have a 20-year-old brother who attends St. Joseph's College in southern Maine as a communications and journalism major. We attended the same schools, and even though 10 years separated us, had some of the same teachers. He always worried he wasn't as smart as me or couldn't live up to my accomplishments. But as he enters his fourth semester of college maintaining good grades and is a leader and accomplished runner on his track team, something I never did at college, I think he is beginning to realize that he may be the smart one after all. It is more than likely we are both the smart one because our mom and dad are also both smart, hardworking people that instilled these qualities in us. My dad was an all star runner who tried college out when they gave him a scholarship, but as it turns out, it wasn't really his thing. However, he did work from a warehouse position at Napa Auto Parts to now a manager with the company for over 30 years. You have to have some ingenuity and work ethic to make that happen, and I'm good with those genetics. My mom has her degree in business and worked professional jobs, as well as running her own self employed business cleaning houses. I inherited my love of books and reading from my mom. There wasn't a bookstore or shoe store that we couldn't walk by without going in to buy something. Many of the rooms of our house were lined with shelves filled with books, and many of those books have made their way to my classroom to help instill that same love of reading I have used using the books I grew up with. As I said, my learning journey began in elementary school in Westbrook. I had some influential teachers at a young age that made me love reading and writing through their read alouds shared with class. My first grade teacher, Miss Lavasser, fostered my love for chapter books early by reading sideways stories from Wayside School. She changed the names of the kids in the book to our classroom students' names, and when she read, we were all eagerly listening and waiting for our chapter to be read. To this day, I remember what character I was, Mauricia, who loved ice cream, and the other kids in the class became ice cream flavors for her to try by licking them all. In first grade, I began reading the series The Bailey School Kids, which became one of my favorites. We were in the process of moving houses at this time and lived with my Grammy while our house was being built. I remember having my mom's old writing desk in the room I stayed in while I was there. Even though this wasn't my permanent home, having a space for writing was something I had in my life from the beginning of my learning, and it was a constant even if the home was not. My fourth grade teacher, Mrs. Plord, was another teacher who made an impression on my learning. I remember doing a variety of projects in her class that involved writing. Looking back on her teaching as an educator now, I see how well she used writing across content areas and made it engaging. We studied Maine, and our groups had to work as a team to race up the coast of Maine by earning points. We could earn points for behavior, teamwork, or academic work, and we culminated our learning with informational paragraph writing. Other projects I completed that year was a published piece called If You Give a Teacher a Chalkboard, similar to the If You Give a Mouse a Muffin books, and a science project about leaves, where I had to write a label for each leaf with factual information and complete with a bark rubbing. I still have both of these projects that I am able to share with my own students. Mrs. Noyes, my fifth grade teacher, is the woman who made me want to be the educator I am today. I don't remember the content learned in her classroom, but the environment that she created for us to learn in and her way of connecting with each one of us in her care. When I was in high school, she was nominated for Maine Teacher of the Year. I went to give an interview testimony as to why she deserved this nomination with a few of my other classmates, and it was standing room only in the packed library, as so many people waited to explain how she had touched their lives. It was in that moment that I saw the importance of building and maintaining relationships with your students, and that would be an integral piece of my own teaching philosophy as I became an educator. I was lucky enough to have Mrs. Noyes sitting in on my first interview for a teaching job at my old elementary school, though I did not get that position. She reassured me that I would find a school that saw the potential in me and went on to give me a reference that helped me get an interview and my first job in third grade. I wrote a lot more on my own during my middle school years. These are the years I began keeping journals. My middle school language arts teachers weren't my most memorable, and where I encountered my least favorite teacher. My 7th grade language arts teacher had us conference to earn our grades. We would read books and conference with him individually to respond to our reading for points, and similar with our writing, we would write our pieces and sign up on the board to conference. It seemed like he was skipping my name when I signed up or finding a way around my name, so I felt like he had it out for me and didn't want me to succeed. I went to my mom with this problem and she told me I should speak up first. He continued to not conference with me by starting from the top if I was in the bottom, or vice versa. My mom went to bat for me, but I still remember it as a wasted year of literacy learning because of that teacher. I did enjoy my 8th grade language arts teacher, but I remember our focus being more on diagramming sentences and vocabulary definitions and less on writing. In my high school years is where the bulk of my writing came from. I took all honors or advanced placement English courses. My freshman English teacher was the most accepting of my quiet tendencies in class and understood that even when I wasn't speaking, I was listening intently and told my parents when I spoke it was profound. This compliment has always resonated with me as I lead discussions with my own students and watch for the active listeners and really open my ears when they choose to speak. My sophomore year, I had a study hall supervised by the teacher who would be my junior year English teacher and my most influential teacher of writing in high school, Mr. Tierney. During my time in study hall with him, he introduced me to books that I would enjoy, as I often had my work completed and was always looking for a good book to fill my time. My favorites were those coming-of-age novels such as Catcher in the Rye and The Perks of Being a Wallflower, with the offbeat main characters finding themselves as they meander the path of life and the ups and downs that are inevitable. During the summer between my sophomore and junior year, my grandmother, whom I was very close with, passed away. I spent a lot of time writing in my journals to cope with her illness and time in the hospital, and my first assignment with Mr. Tierney was to publish 10 of our summer journal entries and to publish final pieces for him. This was a difficult year for me as I navigated life after losing a woman who had been in my life for almost 16 years, and going through the trials and tribulations of an adolescent girl dealing with fractured friendships from lack of support. I also met my first love, who became a focus for my poetry and writing as I learned the pain and heartache that a first love can bring with it. When I look back on these pieces that I have saved, I hear the pain of loss and the confusion with coping with the grief that comes with loss. As I take this next step in my learning journey of beginning my master's in the National Writing Project, I have found the writing and journaling especially cathartic as I deal with another tragic loss in my life. Putting pen to paper is therapeutic as I feel myself become lighter as the words leave my mind, and though you may associate loss with emptiness or silence, I find that after a loss there is more to say than ever. As I have become a teacher of writing, I show my students my writer's notebook cover to help them in creating their own, but I have fallen away from writing in it with them. I look forward to continuing my learning journey in this course and this program and getting back to writing for myself. Thank you.